Good morning, my beloveds. How are you?
Great.
How was your week?
Great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm here to talk to you a little bit about why we are the children of God. The last time we talked, or I talked with you and you listened and shared back with me, which I love, we talked about the fact that heaven is within us. God is within, heaven is within. And this week I'd like to talk a little bit about we are the children of God. This is not moving me.
I guess he didn't have a good week.
Right, you have to move it, John. You have to move it, John, and just trust me. Okay, so today we are the children of God. But as I asked you how your week went, some of you said, I had thumbs up and something, not really sure. And why is that? I want to share with you because life is not always easy. Yeah? Even though we know that we are children of God, even though we know we walk with the divine, even though we know prayers work, just because we know that doesn't mean that life doesn't get in the way and continue to be what life is. I want you to know that life is not always easy, but Spirit is ever with you. Through whatever you may be going through, Spirit is with you to help you through whatever challenges, joys. God is walking with you every step of the way. And I want you to know, too, that your best life is always going to be a walk with God. That is always going to be your best life. So, the next slide. Why is it that life is not always easy? Well, things go wrong, right? Has anybody out there ever had anything go wrong in their life? A few of you? Things change, right? I had this wonderful, and she's still a friend. I say had like she's gone somewhere. But when I was in Thailand, she and I became very good friends, and we're still friends now. And she's part of my, when I write, and I talk about this one character. She is the basis for this character. Her name is Kim. Actually, I guess I should change the name to protect the guilty. Her name is Sandra.
Wait now. She's watching that?
And she had this wonderful, wonderful boyfriend. She's Thai, and he was Greek, and he was from Australia. And they just had, can you believe it? I know. She was Thai from Sweden, and he was Greek from Australia. There you go. What do you guys? And so they had this great relationship, and it was wonderful, and they were heading towards getting married. And then something happened. She doesn't know to this day what happened. But it was so devastating to her, he just decided he just didn't want to be there, and he left. He just left. And I was there at her house, spending the night with her, letting her cry. All her friends were there, just letting her get through it. Because that's what friends do, right? And then he changed his mind. And he came back into her life. And she forgave him, whatever it was. And they are together now. They have wonderful children. They're having a wonderful life. But things happen, and you don't really necessarily always know why. It just is the way it is. And we have to know, to get through these kinds of things, everybody's on their own journey, right? If we know this, if we know that we're children of God, one of the things I was thinking about this week was, what does love look like? Right? What does really love look like? Because if you love somebody, it's not guaranteed. I even tell this to my kids. I love you. I will always love you. There's never going to change. But we don't have to have a relationship, do we? It's not necessary that you love someone and that you have a relationship. It would be nice. But people are on their own journey. And if you love them, you have to let them do that. And love them wherever they are, whether they are physically in your life or not. And that is difficult. And the only way I know how to do it is with a walk with God. Because God helps me to understand, whether I do or not, gives me the love, the patience, the ability to say, I love you, be on your way. Whatever that may be, whether it includes me or not. And that is very difficult to do. In this life, there are so many unknowables and uncontrollables. In fact, we know from this walk, right, that control is an illusion. Right? All of you nodding your heads, yes. We think we're in control of things, but we are not. So there are uncontrollables, there are uncountables, there are all kinds of things, but what can we rely on? I'm asking you. What can you rely on? You can. And the only way we were talking this morning in our meditation class, in our class, it's Discover the Power Within. And how do you develop your relationship? Like sometimes you see that it's going really well, and you get how to talk to God, and you guys know I call him George, and George and I have all these conversations like, what easy? What is going on, and what do you want from me? But this is the kind of conversation that we have to have with God, and you simply have to walk out on faith. You have to do it. People say to me, how do I know? We talked about this last week. How do you even know you're alive? How do you know? You just do. There's no need to think about it and talk about it and worry about it. It is. God is. And you have to step out on faith and just believe. And keep walking in that path until it happens for you. Until what you believe comes true. I was talking with someone in class, and she was saying, I've shared this with you many times about stories of me talking with God and saying what I want and this and that. When you know God, and when you know that your prayer is coming true, how do you behave? What's your behavior like?
Confident.
Hello? You are confident. No one can stop you. I'm going to go ahead and tell this story. I won't share a name. It's not my story, but it was a great story. And she was talking about something that she wanted, and she went to the dealership and said, I want this. And they're saying, ha! Good luck. We don't have this in Texas. And she said, well, you don't have it now, but you will. Because I've asked for it and I know it's coming. This went on for quite some time, and she was, stepping forward, trying to figure out how we're going to get it. She was talking to the dealer, no, not going to happen, not going to happen, not going to happen. Dealer called her up and said, you won't believe it. She said, actually, I will. Not only do we have this car for you, we've got 10 more coming. She's like, great. So I'm the first one that's got one in Texas, great. So she went, she got a car and all of that. Then she talked to the guy and he said, do you know the other ones are not coming? This is the only one that's coming. The only one. So what did that tell you about God? You don't need to know how. This is what we do. This is part of the control. This is part of us not letting go. How is it going to work? That's our first question. I don't understand how it's going to work. You don't need to understand. That's the point. What you need to know is God. What you need to know and be clear about is what you want. And then stand back and confidently expect it. That's how it works. That's how it works. So that's what we know. God will deliver a word of comfort to you through your trials. God will deliver whatever it is. God will bring about a change for the better, even though it doesn't look like it. You can count on it. Whatever you're going through, it will be better. Things will get better. Count on that. Can you do the next slide? Oh, do you think it's going to work? So what I know for sure... What I know for sure is that no matter what happens, God will see us through. All right? All right, that's what we know for sure. God's going to deliver. Expect it and wait on God. I'm going to go off of that because that's just y'all ain't going to be able to concentrate. Isaiah 4:3-18-20 says, forget about what's happened in the past. Forget that. So we like to hang on. One of the reasons why I had a relationship and we could never get further down the road. We could never get further down the road. And the reason why is because no matter what we did to improve it, there was constant talk about what the past was. Yeah, but you used to. When was the last time you saw me do that? You ask for the change has come about. But you keep talking about what it was prior to the change. I can't fix that. You ask for something, we move forward. If you want to allow it and you keep living in the past, that's what you do. You're just living in the past. But God says, forget about what's happened. Don't keep going over and over the old history. Be alert to the present. And we talk about this right all the time. Here and now is where your life is happening. Right? Here and now. And if you want to change the future, it's about the here and now. Let go of what happened before. You can't do anything about it. All it will do is just bring you down. Unless it was good. If it was good, then remember it and try to repeat it. Right? If it was bad, let it go. Let it go. See, don't you see it? There it is. I'm making a road. This is God. I'm making a road through the desert. I'm making rivers in the Badlands because I provide the water in the desert. Rivers through the sun-baked earth and drinking water for the chosen, my chosen people, which is you. You are children of God. So be ye encouraged because Spirit is ever with you. Those who wait upon God get fresh strength, Isaiah 40:31. They spread their wings and they run and they don't get tired. They walk and they don't lag. God is not the author of confusion. There is order to this universe. But there are 7.53 billion people on this planet. Right? 327 million people in the U.S. This is of 2018. 28 million of them live right here in Texas. That's a lot of different levels of consciousness. Right? Oh, yeah. A lot of different egos. All of them creating a great deal of joy and happiness, challenges, and problems. And all of them raised by people with different levels of consciousness and understanding. Correct? I have a great aunt, my grandmother's sister, Aunt Nona. What was her name? Aunt Nona. And her sister was my grandmother, Essie, which my baby sister was named after, Essie. And they're so different from each other. They are so different. Everyone loved to be around Aunt Nona. She was sweet. She always had something baked for you. You know, her house always smelled like cooking. You know, she see you and she, oh, come on, baby. There's always a kiss for you. Kind of where I got all this hugging stuff that I do. My grandmother, on the other hand, wow. She didn't care for any of her grandchildren. I'm not exaggerating. She didn't. Can you imagine? Who's a grandparent in here? Who's a grandparent? Aren't they the best things ever? Yeah. Right? Wouldn't you have started with grandchildren if you know? Exactly. But they were raised by the same people, but they have different levels of consciousness, different levels of fear. My grandmother was fearful. Raised through the Depression, she became fearful. Her sister, raised through the same Depression, always saw what was good, what was great about things. And those are the choices that we get to make. We get to do that. There's always confusion and there's issues because we have to decide whether we're going to come, and I talked about this last week, whether we're going to come from our God self or the ego self. We're always at choice. Whatever we come into, whatever we face, whatever is in front of us, we get to make a choice. That is the control that we have. That's the one that's not an illusion. We get to decide whether we're going to show up as God or whether we're going to show up as, the ego self, PJ, history PJ. I had a name for me. The band had a name. I told you guys I had a band when I was in Thailand. And they had a name for me. It was either PJ or Abrupt PJ. I think some of you may have seen her. Because when I'm done, I'm done. When I'm done talking. Like, okay, well, we're done. So when they wanted something to finish, hey, can you go get rid of this drunken person? Sure. No problem. Sir, get off the stage. We're done. Okay, so everybody has whatever and you decide who's going to show up. Is it going to be PJ or Abrupt PJ? Who's going to show up? That's what we get to do. But when you see the bigger picture, when you understand what your role is on the planet, when you believe that we are united and we are one, then we become like Buddha. We're always at choices I was telling you about. And we awaken to live fully. That's what the Buddha is. Awakened. And we get to stop. Because I was at I think it was it wasn't a conference, it was just a workshop or something. And the speaker was saying, it was a woman because it was all women. And she was saying that when someone's speaking, just listen. Don't get your thoughts together to respond. Just listen. Because if you're not, if you're getting your thoughts together to respond, you're not listening fully. And I looked at her and I thought, it's crazy as hell. What? How? I'm sorry. If I'm not getting my thoughts together, how do I respond to her? I don't understand that. And so I actually went up to her at the end of the thing and I said, what are you talking about? I mean, if they're talking to me, don't I have to kind of formulate, my response? And she said, no, there's plenty of time. You've heard what they said. Listen. First of all, if you don't listen fully, how do you even know what to respond to? You haven't heard the whole thing, right? This is my point about choice. Whatever happens, you have a moment to decide how you want to respond. Just because I learned this from politicians. Just because somebody asks a question doesn't mean you have to answer it. Right? How many politicians answer a question you didn't even ask? That wasn't even asked. So just because someone asks you a rude question or, is that your teeth in your mouth? I'm sorry. You don't have to even respond. You can walk off. So you get to decide. You have time to decide whether you want God, Spirit, to show up in your life, or whether you want, abrupt PJ, whichever your version of that is, to show up. That's what we get to do. My sister had a stressful week. We, as I told you before, she's my ride or die. I mean, she's always got my back, and she had a really stressful week for whatever reason. She called up. She checked with me once or twice a week just to make sure because she was about travel and all that. So she checks with me. So she called up. She said, "I'm just calling to see how you're doing." And before I could say, I'm going to finish, she goes, because and she went off on a rant for 10 minutes. Just rant. And when she finished, I said, okay, well, great talking to you. Hung up. It wasn't about me today. She called me back the next day and she goes, I was reflecting back on that conversation. She says, and I really went off. You must have thought I was a crazy person. And I said, no, I don't. Because the week before, I went off on a rant with you. I mean, that's, right? I mean, that's what we do. That's what we do for each other. So, she doesn't have to apologize. She is a person she's a creature of habit. So change doesn't come easily for her. It just doesn't. But what's her core belief? When we talk about what our core beliefs are, is God first. That's, no matter what, it's God first. She's a very God-loving person. Spouse, children, family, service, doing the right thing. That's what my sister's about. So, she is at choice with those things. And I bring that up because that's the question, isn't it? When we say we're at choice, what choice are we making? How do we know what choice to make? Well, we talked about it already. Who are you? What are your core beliefs? Are you seeing other people when you look at other people? Are you seeing God? Are you seeing yourself? If you see God in everyone you talk to and look at, how do you do anything harmful? How are you not doing anything but trying to do the best for them? Because we are united, we are one. When we understand that, that's how we face the world. That's how we try to face the world. As we were talking this morning in the class on Eric Butterworth and Discover the Power Within, he talked about this because this is disappointing. We get that we are children of God. We get that God is within inside of us. We get that we are united. We don't always believe it, right? It's hard to believe sometimes. It's a journey. It's a journey. And every step we make on this path, we're closer to that truth. We're not going to walk. Jesus said, these and greater things shall you do. I don't believe in my lifetime I'm going to be able to walk on water. I'm still cussing people out. So, right? So I'm a little ways away. I'm a little ways away. But believe me when I tell you, I'm a lot closer today than I was a week ago, a month ago. I'm a lot closer being around you all. I'm growing so much with the love that you all share with me, that we share with each other. Being in this sacred space, I'm a lot closer. So the journey, to me, is worth being on. Be encouraged. Be encouraged. You are on the right path. So what is right for us? You have to know yourself. And you have to get what your core values are. What I know for sure is that you have to set the intention. You have to set your intention. What do you want? Deepak Chopra tells us intention is desire with strict adherence to all the other laws, but particularly the law of detachment. Meaning, go for what you want, but let go. One of the other things that came up in our class was this person was talking about how they wanted, I'm going to move on, they wanted a car. They were praying for a car. Wanted a car wasn't coming, car wasn't coming. And they sat and they talked with this person, and when the person was talking with them, they said, well, okay, talk about the car, talk about what it is you want. Well, I don't like roads, I don't like streets, I don't like this, I don't like that, right? So the person said, okay, so did you want a car or did you want transportation? What did you really want? They go, oh, that's a good point. I'm really glad that I do want to go. I want transportation. A week later, he got the bicycle. He got a bike. That's what came into his life, a bike. So it's about intention, clarity. If you're not getting what you think you're asking for, you're probably getting what you actually are asking for. And think about that. If what's showing up isn't what you asked for, think about what you're actually asking for. What's really going on? What's really happening in your heart and your mind? Because God will bring, the Spirit can only bring you what you ask for. It's all it will do. It's all the law is allowed. That's what happens. Whatever your intention is, whatever you're set upon, that's what's going on. I had hopefully I'll bring a class here. It's called Brain Styles. And it's by Marlene Miller and I think her husband David. I think his name is David Miller. Yeah, David. And what happened was, I don't know if you guys have heard this book, Brain Styles. I use it all the time. It's such a great book. And it's about how people bring in information and put information back out. And there's only 4 different styles according to these people, and it works really well. But the reason why he came up with this, David, was because he was doing a corporate, much like our board meetings. He was just at a meeting, and they were working on a project that they were trying to get done. All these wonderful, intelligent people are sitting around the table, and they just couldn't get anywhere. They're just arguing, and they just couldn't get anywhere. And he sat back from them. So that's the first thing. You have to be objective. So he sat back, and he looked at them. And he's thinking, what is going on here? These people love the project. They want to see it move forward. Why can't they get to a place where they can agree? And so doing that, I talked about before, divergent thinking. Instead of trying to do what he normally does, he just stepped back and said, what's really going on? And what he realized is that you can't change people. People can change and do some things they want, but who they are actually is who they're going to be. How a person thinks is how they're going to think. So he figured out how I need to bring the information so they can understand it. You have to bring information to people in a way that they can understand it. So he changed his intention. I'm not trying to get my way. I'm trying to get this project moved forward. What do they need to know? How do I need to bring the information to them? And he set about doing some experiments and all that, but he ended up with this book called Brain Styles, and it's about how to deliver information. And that's where that came from. So you have to set your intention. Spirit is ever with you. You set your intention for God. I feel like some of these things are missing, but okay. No? That was intention. Okay, well. Your best walk is a walk with God, because God is omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient, meaning he's everywhere, all-powerful, and all-knowing. That's what we want to do. But the reason why we don't is because we refuse to surrender. To surrender to God. What does it feel like to surrender to something? What does it feel like?
Relief.
Like you're giving up? Like you're out of control? What does it feel like?
Accepting.
Okay. We are Americans and cowboys, right? Manifest destiny and all of that. Take what you want. Knock down the doors. That's our history in the U.S. Never give up. Never lose the fight. We're always looking for the winner. So surrender feels like that's what we're doing. That we're giving up. That we're letting somebody else win. But spiritual surrender is very different. My grandson, I couldn't find the video. It was so cute. It was on Facebook and I just could not find it. But he was, I don't know, 1 or 2. You know how little ones are. They simply don't want to go to sleep. They don't want to miss it. I don't know what they think they're going to miss, but they don't want to miss it. So he's sitting there by the dog and poor little thing, he did this, I'm not kidding, for like 2 minutes. Never until finally he just fell over on the dog and went to sleep. Because he didn't want to surrender to sleep. But once he did that, he woke up refreshed. We were all still there. Nothing had changed, that he was feeling better. We don't want to surrender. We're like children. We don't want to go to sleep. I don't want to give it up. No. But I'm telling you right now, surrender now. Surrender now. The first step of the 12 steps is surrender. We admitted we were powerless and that our lives had become unmanageable. Spiritual surrender is a self-offering of your will to God's. That's all it is. You do it. It's not passive. It's an action. It's an active to surrender to the will of God because you know that God knows more than you about where you want to go. And God wants you to get where you want to go. We've talked about this before. I have plans for you. That's what God says. I have plans for you. Romans 1:12 and 1 and 2 says, so here's what I want you to do. Take your everyday, ordinary life, you're sleeping, you're walking around, everything, and place it in my hands. I will help you go where you want to go. I'm not going to take you where you don't want to go. I'm taking you where you want to go. Believe me. Trust me on this. We surrender all the time. I'm getting ready to get on a plane tomorrow night. Some of you else, I'm getting ready to get on a plane. I don't want to fly. Right? This is one of the things that made me, I actually had a fear of flying. It was so crazy because I worked for Continental Airlines and I actually asked to be, I actually asked to be a stewardess because I figured, hey, I'm afraid of flying, I might as well just jump into the middle of it. Right? It didn't work out, but you can't be beating on the door. But anyway, just kidding. But one of the things that made me relax about it was that I know how many hours, just intellectually, how many hours pilots practice and go to school and all that kind of stuff. Did I want to fly the plane? Absolutely not. So I had to surrender, sit in my seat and surrender that the guy up front don't want to crash either. Right? He's not interested. He wants to go home, or she wants to go home. So I have to surrender. I had the surgery, and some of you recently had some surgery. You have to go under. You have to surrender to the doctor and assume that they know something you don't know. And when you finish, it's going to be better for you. It's going to be better for you. That's what spiritual surrender is. Just surrender to something greater than you, that loves you, that wants you to have a fantastic life. That's why we surrender. God said, I know the plans I have for you, big plans. You know what it's like when you have your children and how many great plans, they don't always come true because your kids won't let you. Right? But you have plans for your children. You want great things for them. God has plans for all of us. Each and every one of us are children of God, and God has great plans for you. I have plans to prosper you and not to harm you. You are a child of God, blessed and loved and taken care of. So here's how we surrender. 5 steps. Pray. We talked about how to pray. It's not a pleading thing. It's not a God out there. You just unite, know that you are one with God, and make a choice. Here's what I want. We celebrate what is already beautiful in our lives. We talked about gratitude this morning. We have so many great things in our lives already. Look at you. You guys are beautiful. Look what you look like out here. You're wonderful. You have so much to be thankful for already. We have to understand that there are obstacles and that the universe will guide us up, over, around, or through them. There's no car here? Yes, there is. Somebody else asked for this house, too bad, because it's mine. It doesn't matter. You have to know to that level that God wants for you. And here's the thing. One of the problems for us is that one of the things that we feel is like, well, what happens if I get what I want? Does that mean that somebody else doesn't get what they want? Because I took that, right? You didn't take it. Just get it out of your head. You didn't take it. What's yours is yours. And God has something for them as well. You don't take anything. You only accept what is yours. Believe me. You only accept what is yours. You're not taking from anyone because the universe is abundant. There's much for you and for the others as well. Ask for signs. I ask God all the time, what is it? What's going on right now? What do you want from me? What is my role in this and where am I going? All the time. I remember telling you when I first went into Signs of My Church in San Diego, and I so fell in love with the minister, who was a Marilyn Day Hall. Well, okay, woman in the pulpit. Oh! Blonde woman in the pulpit. Oh, no! Blue-eyed, what's happening here? But she was making so much sense, and I said to George, I said, listen, and then in my background is always, watch for false prophets. Ooh, God, is this a false prophet? And I said to George, listen, George, let me tell you something. If this is a false prophet, give me a sign. And you know what the sign was? I loved her. That was the sign. I loved her. She made perfect sense to me, and I have been going to New Thought ever since. And that was in 1995. 1995. I will not be moved off of this. Because this is where I belong. You and all of you in New Thought are my tribe. This is where I belong. And obviously you belong here because you're here as well. So I talked about surrender more. Practice surrendering every single day. When you think you've got it, see if God has a better plan. I think I got this. What do you think? What do you think? I'm pretty sure I got this. What do you think? Yeah. Always just surrender more. It's going to be better for you. Here's a prayer I'd like you to think about. If I turn this thing around. The surrender prayer. Here's a prayer that I pray all the time. Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say? Sometimes I feel like I have an ear thing. Like, you guys watch Days of Thunder? Has anybody seen that movie or seen a race car? They've got the headphones in their ear, and their coach or whoever the guy is always telling them, something's coming up around the curve. There's a fire, move around to the left, whatever it is. I feel like I've always got this thing from God in my ear. Saying, shut up, you're about to step in it. I get that a lot, by the way. You move around, keep quiet, whatever it is. I just feel like I have a direct plug in my ears from God all the time. We all have that. Are you listening or not? It's up to you. Up to you. Don't have to. It's up to you. This is a prayer. You are children of God. Believe it. You are blessed and highly favored. Okay? Life is not always easy. That is what life is. It's not always easy. But Spirit is ever with you. Call upon Him. Your best life is always going to be a daily walk with God. Just surrender. Just do it. Just take a leap of faith. Just step out and do it. Namaste.